Hello, everybody, and welcome to Creating Effective Reports with Crystal Reports 2011. Hopefully you guys can all hear us. You should be able to hear us through your computers, mic, and speakers using broadcast audio. Just a little bit about using ReadyTalk through today's event. Remember that you will be muted throughout this presentation, so if you have any questions, you can go ahead and type those into the chat pane, and we will either get back to you via the chat pane, or if they're content-related questions, I'll be feeding those to the presenters throughout the webinar. There is also, like I said, you should be able to hear it through your computers, mic, and speakers. If you do need to dial in, if that is your only option, just let us know and we can send you that number. And just as a reminder that this webinar is being recorded, and we will be sending out the recording of this webinar as well as any additional links or resources following the webinar. We'll also be putting those on the TechSoup homepage and on our TechSoup YouTube site. And if you wanted to go ahead and talk about this webinar or any of our webinars or any of our TechSoup holdings on Twitter, you can use our Twitter hashtag TechSoup. So again, this is Creating Effective Reports with Crystal Reports 2011. My name is Kyla Hunt, and I'll be your facilitator today. I'm the Webinar Program Manager here at TechSoup. Along with us today will be Kenneth Lee and Jacqueline Churcher, both from SAP, and they'll be talking with you about the benefits of Crystal Reports 2011 and some do's and don'ts when you're creating reports. And then assisting with chat, it says Becky Wiegand, but we had a last-minute change, and actually assisting us with chat today is going to be Shab Sigmund and Meg Creelman from TechSoup, so you might see their names pop up in the chat pane. And also you might see some ReadyTalk folks pop up as well, including Toby. So if you see those names answer your questions, feel free to be relieved that that is an actual legitimate answer. So a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. First, we're going to be talking a little bit of an overview of Crystal Reports 2011 as well as some do's and don'ts of creating good and effective reports. We'll also be taking through a demo of Crystal Reports 2011 in case you've either used the product and want to know more about it, or you're just interested in the product now. And throughout the presentation, like I said, if you have any questions, go ahead, type those into the chat pane. If they are, we might be handling some of those questions throughout the presentation while Jacqueline and Kenneth are talking. We'll also take a couple of questions breaks during the middle and the end of the presentation. If for some reason we don't get to all of your questions, I will be forwarding any unanswered questions to the presenters, and we will try to get back to you after the webinar, probably within a week. And at the very end, we'll talk a little bit about who TechSoup is and what we can do for you. And so before we get started, what I wanted to do is go ahead and ask you a couple of poll questions just so we kind of get a gauge of who is with us. The first question is, what is your skill level with Crystal Reports? Beginner or brand new? And so that can even be, if you are just really interested in learning about it. Intermediate, so if you have just started using it and are really in the learning phases. And advanced, if you really feel like you're an expert in Crystal Reports. And so I'm going to give you all a couple more seconds to respond. Count down. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And so it looks like 67% of you are beginners or brand new, so that's really good to know. About 25% of you are intermediate, and just 7% of you feel like you're really advanced in Crystal Reports. So that's really good to know for our framing of this webinar. And so our second question that I just wanted to go ahead and ask, and it looks like it actually asked twice. Kenneth, do you actually have that other poll question up for us? I'm going to go ahead and look to see if I have it in my email, and I can just read it out loud for you all.
Yeah, sorry, we're kind of digging around for that question too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I found it. So I'm going to just ask this verbally, and you can go ahead and type these answers into your chat pane. What are your reporting needs? And so some examples, some options that we have here are extending current reports available to you in existing applications, developing reports that can be shared with external audiences, access and leveraging the latest released functionality, building reports off a source for which no reports exist, or if there's any other reporting needs that you really have in your organization that you really want to share with us, that would be great. And I apologize that we don't have an actual poll for this, but if you want to go ahead and type those into the chat pane, that would be great. And just seeing some of the things that are coming in, we see reports out of Razor's Edge, extending current reports, developing reports, building reports from databases, building reports from a source that doesn't have an existing source, all of the above, plus also linking to Peachtree, building reports from data sources, developing reports. I see a lot of developing and building reports from information from your databases. And I do see a couple of other people saying that they need more help with linking to multiple tables and building reports with subreports in them. So thank you everybody for answering that in the chat function. I really appreciate that. And so with that, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and turn this over to Kenneth and Jacqueline, who will first be going over Crystal Reports 2011, some of the do's and don'ts, and then we'll be taking us through a demo. So Kenneth and Jacqueline, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Kyla. Hi, everybody. My name is Jacqueline Churcher, and I'm just going to take a moment to put Crystal Reports 2011 in a slightly larger context. It's made available to you through TechSoup via our corporate responsibility program. And if you're not aware of it, SAP creates products that help companies run their business, and perform profitably and sustainably. And by doing so, we help these organizations become leaders in their field. And by doing that for nonprofit organizations, we're helping a different sector and driving economic opportunity for you and all of your customers. Through TechSoup, we have delivered products to all of these countries, and we are a global organization and interested in corporate social responsibility globally. Now, Crystal Reports 2011 is one of several offerings that our corporate social responsibility organization makes available, and that includes Crystal Reports as well as BI on Demand. That's in the Sharing Information Online section. This is an online platform that allows you to publish reports and deliver them via the web to stakeholders. The SAP Crystal Dashboard product, formerly known as Excelsius, provides summarized data that is highly visual and enables a lot of interaction with the values behind the model. And SAP Streamwork, which is under the Organizing Volunteers section, allows you to post activities or topics along with your reports and engage stakeholders in topics of conversation. It may be organizing an event or talking about the numbers returned in a report, let's say. So, moving on to SAP Crystal Reports, I'm just going to pass it over to Kenneth to talk to you on that first.
All right, thank you. So, Crystal Reports it consists of actually our products that we've been offering through TechSoup have been starting with the Crystal Reports 2008 product, and as Jacqueline had mentioned, also the old Excelsius and SAP Crystal Dashboard product. You know, the hosted products being BI on Demand and Streamwork, and what we're here today to talk to you about is Crystal Reports 2011. And for some of you, it's been available since early March in the U.S., mid-March for the rest of the world. Also upcoming is also the dashboard product in later this month. So, you know, the question with the agenda that for today, we want to talk about some basic, you know, questions of why would someone want to use SAP Crystal Reports, what are some of the things that are new in CRIS Reports 2011. I had a chance to take a look at the registration information and can talk a little bit about the data connectivity options that you have today with this product, with the products that you use in your organizations. And then following that, we're going to go through some concepts of effective reports on how to build the reports from scratch and doing things that are more fancy around formatting and et cetera. And Jacqueline will go into a demo before we have some questions to close out the session. So why do we use CRIS Reports? The CRIS Reports is a best-of-breed tool. It's been around for a many number of years. The version, the CR 2011 version that we are talking to you today has been around since the mid-late 80s. So this is a tool that is very well known by a lot of customers and the industry for business intelligence and reporting. We've built out our tool over the years to be able to connect to many and any data sources. We can connect to multiple data sources within a single report. For distribution, we've made it very accessible for users to be able to export these reports into common formats such as the PDF or the Excel spreadsheet or the Word doc. As well, for our enterprise paying customers, we do have a platform for distributing these reports to consumers and all that. And the BI on Demand, I think, is a hosted tool that will allow nonprofits like yourself to be able to have similar type of functionality there. These reports can be easily distributed through your common modes of distribution, email, web. If you're a developer, they can be embedded into applications. What the reporting tool does is, once you connect to all the data, you can actually manipulate it, organize it, and summarize it in the formatting functionality that we provide, whether it is in formulas or parameters, charts, or even tables. And what we've been doing in the last in the CRIS Report 2000 since the CRIS Report 2008 version of the Designer, we've been adding more native interactivity within the Report Designer to allow the data that you are consuming to be sorted in place, to be parameterized without having to refresh against the database. We've been supporting Flash as an embeddable content type, so you could build some very basic, if not powerful, dashboards within CRIS Reports as well. And our typical functionality that that customers have come to love around grouping data by a certain field and being able to drill down that data into a more narrowed view of that data to help them make better decisions. I've got here in this slide just some quick examples of the types of reports that you can actually create. These screenshots will perhaps indicate to you that they could be form-based billing statements or reports with graphics and charts that look at your finances or look at your donations that are coming in, for instance. And what the CRIS Reports product is really powerful for is to be able to create these very highly formatted documents, and they're personalized and very rich in value that can be delivered quickly to your consumers. And one of the things that we really try to espouse is the aesthetics of the reports is very important in how you design the report. In this case, with a simple graphic of the gas stations here, which one would you trust? Which one would you feel more comfortable filling your gas at, filling up your car at? And it's the same thing applies to reporting. If you can design compelling reports that draw your audience in and give you direct visibility into the information you want, it becomes a very powerful tool for your reporting. Got some examples here of a report here that it doesn't look very professional. It's perhaps very straightforward, but an executive, for instance, looking at this report day in, day out may find the information they need eventually, but it's definitely not visually grabbing. As opposed to what we have in the next slide here, you can actually overdo the aesthetics. Sort of the left half of the screen. Some people may like this, some people may not, but it is an indication that when we do apply aesthetics to your reporting, it is important to get a good balance, something that will lay out your charts and your tables in a clear manner, and show the trends that you need to visualize for your consumers. So what's new in CRISPR Reports 2011? Simply put, CRISPR Reports 2011 is an incremental update to the CRISPR Report 2008 product. So for those of you who already have the CR 2008 Designer, the changes are fairly minor. What we've introduced as new features in CR 2011 is the ability to export the report, the RPT report, into a read-only version of the RPTR. What this means is that the design for the report is actually locked up now when you load this type of report in the Designer, and it basically makes this report read-only from the consumer in the Designer. We've also been keeping up with the latest. During the time that we were working on CRISPR Reports 2011, the Office 2007 and 2010 suites had come out. So we've just made a basic incremental update to support the XLSX Excel format. And the benefits to that is that we can now support up to 1 million rows of data for those of you who wish to design reports that will return that much data. And also the XLSS format, if you are reporting on it, is smaller in terms of file size. And also, because XLSS is an export format that we can export a report to, we can also consume it as a data source. So those of you who are working with Excel as your data, we will be able to connect to that and pull the data out for reporting.
And Kenneth, we had a couple of questions about exporting the data. I just wanted to bring them up since you're talking about exporting.
Sure.
Like Richard was asking, is there a mechanism to burst reports via Crystal Reports in any of the export formats? And I know somebody else was asking about exporting to like XML.
Right. Currently with the Designer as a standalone tool, no, there is no bursting capabilities. Our platform product does have the ability to schedule reports, and we have a publications feature that will schedule reports to a vast number of recipients and send them out as either email or attached to their user account on the platform. I'm not clear on whether the BI on Demand product has similar capabilities. It may have that ability to at least deliver reports to the users in your group, but unfortunately that is an area that I'm not terribly familiar with.
Okay, thanks, Kenneth.
Okay, so just to recap for those of you who are new to CRISPR Reports and considering 2011, you get all the features from 2008, of course, and I wanted to sort of basically recap what are the main features that we have delivered in the CR 2008 Designer. So in CR 2008, we delivered the ability to have a parameter panel right next to the report in your view in the Designer. And what that allows you to do is to be able to have in-place parameters that will filter out data, the saved data that is in your report, and without having to incur a database refresh. And what that does is it gives a lot of flexibility for consumers now to work with the data that is already fetched and be able to tweak the parameter settings to filter something a little bit more to their liking or to their needs. There's some on-report sort controls. You can bind a sort control to a particular group or field, and you can actually sort your data in place without, again, having to incur a refresh against the database. This is great for those who are sending a report of a snapshot of something that was refreshed, say, last week, and you didn't want to get the latest data because it may have changed. For crosstabs, we've introduced the ability to have custom rows and columns to give a user the ability to make calculations. So many times you may have a series of sales data, for instance, or currency, dollar data that you may want to apply some sort of variance calculation or average calculation to. And you can introduce that in a customized row or column. Flash support, we have the ability to have some basic Flash widgets created from the Excelsius Designer and then embedded and binded to the data in your report, so that you can create simple slider pie chart type controls, for instance, that depending on an input value, you might be able to project your the data that you want further out in the future, for instance. And there's many more. We have a PDF document on our website that details all the features that have been delivered with this report designer, and it would be a good reference for many of you who are considering the product to take a look and see what would be useful for your reporting needs. So as I said, I had a quick chance to look at the registrant data for many of you today, and I wanted to kind of basically talk a little bit about some of what I did notice. So many of you had talked about, had mentioned that you use applications like ADB PowerSource or MicroEdge GIFs. I did a quick search, online on many of these products. Forgive me, I'm not terribly familiar with every single one of these, but in much of my research, I did find that a lot of these products actually embed CRISPR report technology into it. So the reports that you are probably getting out of these applications, for instance, are already CRISPR reports. So I can totally understand where many of you are coming from, where you might want to have access to a copy of CRISPR reports so that you can design your own set of reports against these applications, because it's very possible that you can already connect to the database schema for which this data is stored in. Many of these formats, many of the formats that I noticed that these applications use are X-based or D-based, file-based data formats or Excel access formats. So it's, even SQL Server I've noticed. So it's very simple. We should be able to support being able to connect with our designer to these applications that you're currently using, so that you can extend the reporting capabilities or build customized content for the audiences that you need to deliver to. So the basic tenet of the CRISPR report designer, for instance, ODBC is a big connectivity type that we support. It's very pervasive in terms of what we can connect to. So many database vendors or applications that have a data component will and likely have an ODBC driver. And as long as you can configure that in the ODBC administrator in Windows, there's no reason why we couldn't connect to that. The screenshot on the right here, it's a little bit small, I apologize, but we actually couldn't, I don't think we could actually fit everything in there. Actually, no, we did. But the list of data sources that we can connect to is very extensive. And as you can see, the flexibility as a designer to be able to connect to many sources is a true strength of ours, and we hope that it would be very possible for you to use it for your reporting needs. So going through some effective reports, we wanted to start from the basics. One of the things that we want to talk about is when you sit down and design a report, really understand the audience and the purpose of that report. is this person going to look at a snapshot of data and a subset, or are they going to look at all the records that are in a database? Hopefully not the latter, because it gets very difficult to sift through thousands of pages and hundreds of thousands of records just to get that piece of information that you really want. Identify and prioritize the data. Know what you need to calculate through formulas. Other requirements that you might have, such as charts. If you're joining other data sources together, make sure you know that you can join that schema together and get a proper result set that will make sense. Start simple, right? Deliver the most impactful value first. So get the data to show in the report first. Make sure that the data validation is correct, and then start tweaking it with more features, right? Also consider how you're going to distribute the particular format, right? So is it safe will all your consumers have a report designer installed? So does it make sense to distribute the report as an RPT, or will it be a PDF because that's a very common standard today? And one thing to really stress is that report development is very iterative. I think you can spend a lot of time coming up with the design of your ultimate look and feel of the report and the behavior, but I think building and getting there is going to be iterative. You're going to be designing in a certain way and backtracking and making a couple new things and trying and tweaking some other things as you go along. So yeah, I mean, going through these screenshots, these are things that Jacqueline will likely quickly demo as well in the demo portion of this webinar. But the flow that we generally see users, you're choosing your data, displaying in the report. You want to be able to look at grouping. So in this case, we've got grouping by city and by state. There might be some other filters and sorts. At some point, you're going to want to add summaries for your data and other formatting to improve the readability and understanding. So in this case, we've got sort of an alternating shading to identify the different rows. And once you've got the basic report going, you can do a whole lot more. So we want to, the goal here is, try to change your reports from something that is just plain numbers and data that is coming back from the database to something that you can easily understand and view often, and not just view often, but get the information you need right away, right? So charts, formatting, they help to illuminate patterns, bring things of interest to your view. Parameters and sorts, grouping, being able to drill into data and charts, building hierarchies so that you can see the nested information and you can navigate through it that way. Formatting aesthetics to reduce the clutter. Those of you who, you may have multiple reports, but you can link them through subreports to expose related and contextual data. And the subreports can be exposed as either on demand or not, or completely live in the report. And these are all decisions that you will make given the understanding of your audience. So here we've got the report here with some charts, and just to illustrate the trending of the data that you see in front of you. You can build lots of different charts and break them out into more detailed charts that will give you a more microscopic view of the summary of the data. And this is sort of a bit of a summary, right? Like, with getting started, you want to be able to, again, connect to the data, do your basic summaries and groups. Think about where you're exporting the report to, where you're going to put the information into which sections of our report, whether it is the header, the footer, the body of the report. And doing more. We've got a lot of charting capabilities and subreports. Crosstabs is very popular. We have a lot of users who use our products who bring in a lot of fields into the body of the report, but then build lines and tables to make it look as though it is a crosstab, for instance. Being able to drill into data. What data should you expose in the top level of the report? Which data should be exposed when you drill down into the report into a certain section? We support images, parameters, and sorts. Flash applets tend to be is a good option for those who are interested in having that dynamic Flash interactivity. We have a very powerful formula language for formatting and conditional formatting, and lots of mathematical functions and functions that will allow you to manipulate the data that is in front of you. So at this point, I'm going to pass control over to Jacqueline, who will share her desktop and show you live what are some of the things that we've been showing you in screenshots.
Thanks, Kenneth. And while we're getting that set up, I was just going to ask a couple of more questions that have come in. Richard was wondering, can the reports be scheduled to go to folders?
Again, the scheduling is a functionality of our current platform, the Business Objects Enterprise platform. As for scheduling, I am aware that there are possibly some third-party tools that might allow you to schedule or deliver reports to folders, and I would encourage customers that are looking for these smaller tools to look at those options. Those who are more technically savvy, I think, can make use of our SDKs to build applications that will handle this behavior. And when you have access to the SDKs and you're an application programmer, you can design whatever you want. So I think, in essence, the answer is, with this current designer, no. But there are a lot of tools out there, whether you pay for it or get it for free or build it yourself, that are available that can give you this functionality.
Okay, great. And this might be, this is the only other question that I'll ask right now. I'll hold all the rest until later, but this might be something that Jacqueline might be talking about. Kim was wondering, how does your customer initiate a report request? Do they normally identify tables or fields within the report request? So I guess, Jacqueline, when you're doing your demo, just I guess keep that question in mind. Would be helpful.
Yeah, I could start by speaking to that.
Okay, great.
In an ideal world, absolutely, you would get that information in the report request. But in a real world, not everybody has that information, and often a great amount of time is spent getting the data right, figuring out which tables in a complex schema are needed, how they're related, and where exactly the values of interest are derived from in that database. So if possible, yes, is the short answer. But often that's not possible. And if you're responsible for report development, just make sure that the people that are waiting for the report and the people you report to are aware of what's blocking you, if that is a block and you need to find the information. Excuse me.
Okay, great.
I'm just going to add, I know that many of you are using Crystal Reports with custom applications, and sometimes those schemas can be hard to understand, but you're going to need to look at the documentation the vendor has available and speak to them in order to sort it out, because indeed it is a dependency in terms of getting the data right. And I just noticed there are a few questions have come in, and I won't try to speak to them right now, but in terms of scheduling destinations and live data from Business Intelligence on Demand, BIOD, I believe that functionality is available, but Kenneth and I aren't experts on that software, so we should, find you that information after the call to make sure you get the right information. So what I thought I'd start with is just showing you, we've got some screenshots in the PowerPoint, and I just thought I'd show you that report and how it evolved, speaking to how it became more interactive and more visual. And then I'll show you some getting started steps, and depending on how much time we have. So this has just got two groups and some summaries. It's essentially a listings report. And then I added some conditional formatting to provide pre-attentive visual cues for the readers of your reports so they can recognize patterns or distinguish lines of data easily. Then I added this chart. It's actually a drillable chart based on the fact that I have the chart based on the state and summarizing the donation amount. I can click on that and isolate data. Then I thought, well, I've got this data by quarter. If I summarize the amount of donations coming in and the number of donors, we can gain insight into the trend. So by adding these charts, you immediately help people looking at the report see which state is the highest, which state is the lowest, and what states are in the data set. When you're using bar charts, sorting the values is a good way to go because it immediately identifies who is the highest and who is the lowest in those groups of values. Sorry, I didn't mean to go to page 2. This is the same report, and I'll just make it slightly bigger, but I've then shown small multiple versions of the quarterly performance by each state. So you can see which states are trending down, which states are trending up, and because they all use the same y-axis scales, you can see the relative performance of each in that group of reports. So this iteration of the report went down a different path. This is the same initial chart that was added that is drillable. I've put in a crosstab that shows the actual donations delivered by these campaign types and the number of donors. This chart is still drillable. You can see by the magnifying glass that's available to me. And then I have my trend chart, and this is a stacked bar chart that shows the proportion, the different campaigns within different spend priority levels, high, medium, and low. Now, I probably spend a little more time to get these colors to be a little less garish, and I could certainly argue that it's difficult to see the relative values of the layers within these stacked bars. But there's something else that I added to this. There's a parameter that's been added to the report, and in this case, parameters often would be used to filter data so that if you choose, country equal is USA, then the report's going to return data for the United States. But in this case, I'm prompting the user of the report to provide whether or not they want the report to be organized by campaign type, campaign spend priority, or geography. And the default value is campaign type, so we've got direct mail, billboards, search ads, and so on. But I can drill into a bar and expose the trend in direct mail donations and the second level of grouping I've associated to group level 2 when the user's chosen campaign type is a state. So there are a couple of formulas, and I'll show you that. I've called it drill and grouping value, which is for group level 1. And this is an example of a formula that looks at the parameter value, and if the user has chosen campaign type, then the formula outputs the field campaign type, and then the report data is grouped by that string value. So the next version of that report, so it still has the parameter, it still has the charts, and I added some other charts that were showing average donation, relative donations. And that just, is just another way to see the data and allow people to see that for some reason when you're bringing in money from banner ads, people are donating more money. So we can still drill into the data, and I've also, I think it's on this version, okay, I've made it possible to drill into individual states. If I do that, I'm just going to refresh this and run it for campaign type. So you can see the same report as it's evolved. And now I've added this formatting so that when somebody drills into it, they can see the specific records that are related to Texas and Q1. Now here's another example of a formula, and this formula provides an output that corresponds to the parameter value again, because depending on what you're looking at, what you've grouped by, you're going to want to expose something different at the detail level. Okay, so now I'm going to start and create a report. So this is poorly sized on my window. So this is the connection window, and I'm going to pretend I haven't already connected to this data source, but this is where I'll find my database called Fundraiser. And I'm just going to add 2 tables and hit finish. Oh, I need to edit my tables here because I didn't join them. So campaign spend priority has a one-to-many link with the donations table, so I'm just going to link it from that ID field to the campaign type ID. I know that's how the data relates. If I didn't know, I might look at the contents of the table separately and figure out what values were related. So I need to get to my... I'm having trouble getting... Okay, finding my OK button. Now I'm going to click on the design view, and this shows you the structure of the canvas before we started to do anything. By default, we have a report header, a page header, detail section, report footer, and page footer. The report header and report footer are generated once for a report at the beginning and the end. Page header and page footer for each page, and the details are generated for each record returned in the report. I'm going to start by adding a few fields. So from my donations table, I will take state and quarter and donation amount. I'm just going to put it onto the detail section. So there we can see that's the data I have in my report. And now I'm going to insert a group on state. So when I select it here, I know that when I choose to insert a group, it has my state field selected by default. So I've created one group, and I'm just going to show you in the design view. Now we have a group header 1 and a group footer 1 section generated. I'll do the same thing for quarter. And now we have another group header 1 and group header 2 section. You can see them being generated in the group tree to the left. So I'd also like to see what to summarize the donation amount value so that we can see what the totals are for the groups. So from the design view, I'm going to right-click on the summary and choose, or on the field and choose Insert Summary. I'm going to check this Add to All Group Levels, and you can see that these summary objects have been added to the group footer section. Now I want to show those to you at the top of the report, so I'm just going to move them up. And I'm going to put this report level summary into the report header, because that's the right place for it. And now we hit preview, and we can see the summaries at the top. But this is kind of redundant. I'm going to, or I don't want to see it in any case. So I'm just going to suppress that section. I'm going to right-click and choose Suppress. And then the group footer section is, messing with the flow of the data, so I'm just going to suppress that too. And while I'm at it, I'll just make these less bold so we've got a little more contrast. So you can see very quickly we're getting to the first version of the report that I had started to build. So now I'm going to show you the export functionality. You can find it there or from the File menu. And we'll say Export Report. You can see a list of formats that are available. There's quite a good list. And I'll just show you PDF. I'm choosing the destination as the application just so it's going to pop open. I'll create bookmarks from the group tree, and you can see how your users have immediately, they've got a PDF document, and I can navigate. Let's go to the end of the report, let's say. Oh, it's a one-page report. But that would take them through the document if they needed to. So now I'll just give you some insight on how you can do some formatting. Let's see, I think this section here had been formatted to be sort of a gray-blue. I'm going to do that by going to what's called the Section Expert. And on the Color tab, I'm going to choose to apply a background color. Now, this was a custom color that I created using red, green, blue values. So I'm going to choose it here and click OK, and immediately we can see that coming through in the report. If I wanted to do that for Group Header 2, I'm going to bring up the Section Expert again. I just want to point out that I didn't have to close it and reopen it. I could just navigate to the different sections properties by clicking in this left list here. But in this case, I've got Group Header 2 selected because that's where my quarterly values are. And I'm going to go to the Color tab. I think we had alternating shades of light yellow, which is this value here. It's got an RGB value of 255, 255, and 225. So right now it's formatted unconditionally. Every row is yellow, light yellow. Now I'm going to implement that property conditionally. So by doing that, I'm going to the Formula button, and this is not a formula object. It's a conditional formatting function. So it will deliver a Boolean output, either a true, false, yes, no, or in this case, yellow or white. These are comments that are included to explain the window. But what I'm going to do here is write a little bit of logic. If the group number, now this is a predefined value in the report that you just become familiar with when you want to achieve something. Please use the help files because there is information on all of this, and I can show you other ways to find it too. Whoops. If remainder, I need my remainder function first.
I'm just going to read this question while you're, because I just want to make sure it's an interesting question, and I wanted to make sure we got to it since we're about 12 minutes to the hour. Is there any, or what kind of templates, and you can do this after this section or not, but what kind of templates are available, like reporting templates would be available through Crystal Reports?
I'm not, there's a group of sample reports that have been available historically with a sample database. I'm not, offhand, I'm not sure where they're available right now.
They may still be accessible from our support site. It's a good question, Jacqueline. I'm not clear where they are today. I know those of you who sign up on BI On Demand, I think, may have access to some report templates there. I think there might also be a way to yeah, I'm not aware of whether there's a central repository for these types of Crystal reports.
Yeah, not as far as I know of, but there definitely have been samples provided historically. I believe some of them are installed with our enterprise platform, and they're probably available online somewhere, but it would just be a matter of finding them.
Okay, that's fine. And
yeah.
if you do find them after the webinar, just send them my way and I can send them out to the participants.
If there's a compilation of questions, Kyla, feel free to remind us there.
Definitely will do. Okay, thanks.
So,
sorry for interrupting. That was partly my 10-minute reminder.
Okay, all right. Well, then I'll just wrap up after this so we can focus on questions. But just stepping back, we're going to make this yellow background an alternating color. And what I've done in the conditional formatting button for the custom background color is written this logic that says if the remainder of a group number divided by 2 is 0, then output to this RGB function's output, which is the light yellows, which has the 255, 255, 225 RGB value. Otherwise, output CR white. I could have, instead of CR white, I could have written RGB 255, 255, 255, which is white. So if you were doing this on the detail section, there is a corresponding value that you'd use for the detail section. That's called record number, because often you would be doing this to the detail section. So I hit Save and Close, and we've got the alternating stripes. So there's a lot more that I could show you, but in the interest of giving you the information you're most interested in, Kyla, do you want to communicate questions to us?
Sure, and if we get through all the questions and then you still have time, and if there's something else you want to highlight at the end, that would be great too. Barbara just asked, do you need to know how to code to use Crystal Reports?
No, technically no. I think the technical knowledge that might be required in order to get started with creating reports is to understand your database schema, the data source that you're connecting to. So that is, of course, dependent on what application you're using or what data source you're trying to connect to. So we do recommend that you understand where to get that data from before you build your report. Any other kind of technical knowledge you might want to know or learn as you go when building reports is probably understanding how to use the formula language. The formula language is very powerful in extending the capabilities of manipulating your data and massaging it to how you would want it to be displayed or the data to be used. So I think that's probably one other area that has a learning curve. But doing basic formulas such as being able to add a value from one field to the value of another is very easy to do.
Okay, great, thank you. And Ross just asked, can you quickly show me the formatting formula again for alt color?
Sure. I've just opened up that window here,
Great.
Kyla. And
Thank you.
The 2 forward slashes at the front of the row will allow you to comment out a line. And this is what the syntax would be if you were going to be doing it in your detail section. And
great.
I'll just show you in the Field Explorer that the group number and record number values are listed here in the list of special fields. And if you wanted to see what its output was, you can just put it onto the canvas. So you can see this Colorado is group 5, but so is Q1, group 5. And if I expose the detail section and I put in the record number field, you can see how, I'll just delete date and quarter. You can see how that's incrementing relative to the group values. So by the time we get to Colorado, group number 5, we're at record 627. Okay.
Perfect.
I won't go ahead, Kyla.
Okay. Were you finished, or did you have something else to add to that?
I can always go on, but I don't want to cut off.
Okay.
Hey, look, Kyla, I noticed that I think someone had mentioned about showing XML connectivity through the design. I don't know, Jacqueline, our sample data is based on some XML files, isn't it? Is that correct?
I think I might have it.
We could quickly show, at least the XML connectivity database driver and at least show the UI for what kind of input fields you would need to add in order to show this.
Sure,
Okay, yeah.
that'd be perfect.
So based on the screen that Jacqueline has shown here, our XML connectivity here allows you to input the file path to your XML files, and based on the class name, you can then pull out the relevant XML data. I think that's what you're asking for. I hope that kind of answers the question. But otherwise, it's fairly simple. Yeah, here's another screen here. If it was a web-based, XML URL, you can connect to that and be able to pull your data through that XML source.
So this is an old connection I have in a connections list I've used, but apparently I don't have the source or can't remember the. I wouldn't think there'd be security, but I can't connect to it at the moment.
Okay, no problem. And I know Kathy just asked, can Crystal Reports 2011 easily add totals from subreports together on the main report?
Sure. What you do, Kathy, is when you're in your subreport, take the value the total that you want to use in the main report and assign it to a shared variable. So we'd create a formula, and the formula would say, shared number var x := and then you'd assign the value from your subreport to that variable. And then what I would do is in the main report display that. So if you've got multiple subreports, they're going to be coming through in a group header, group footer section presumably. And you can right-click in a section like this and choose Insert Section Below. So in the design view, here's my, there's a section here that I've just added. And if you've got a subreport in, let's say, group header number 1, and in that subreport you've assigned a variable and displayed it, and you may hide it later, but just while you're building it, make sure you know what you're generating, and then display it in the main report. And what you need to do then is add up that output that's coming through in the group header number 1B into another variable. So it's not a right-click, and the technique you want to use is manual running total. And Kyla, if you could possibly note, I think it's Kathy's question, I can make a point of sharing a PDF document that talks about this manual running total technique. And that
Sure.
It's slightly more involved, but it's definitely worth learning, Kathy, and will help you, get what you need. It's easily done.
Sure. Yeah, I just noted it. Thank you.
Thanks.
And then I think we have time for one more question before we wrap up. Earlier, Sarah had asked, do you have customers using this tool for Salesforce reporting?
We sure do.
We sure do, yep.
I think
we have actually a Salesforce data driver that allows you to connect to the Salesforce cloud.
So it's, do you remember where we get the driver from? Is it installed? I think it's installed by default.
It's installed by default.
So then as soon as you enter in your user ID and password for your Salesforce account, you have access to their schema. And I, in a different role, I did build reports off of it. I did not find the schema hard to work with. So absolutely you can report off Salesforce.
Okay, great. Thank you. With that, I think I'll go ahead and start kind of wrapping up. If we did not get to your questions today, I will go ahead and forward those to the presenters, and we can respond within the week or so directly to you. But I think we did get through most of the questions that came in. first, I want to go ahead and really thank both Jacqueline and Kenneth for being here with us today. I mean, this is really, really helpful information, and I know that TechSoup and the TechSoup community really appreciates it. So I really want to thank you for that. I want to thank both Meg and Shab on my end for helping me out today. Just again, a little bit about who TechSoup is. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, just like so many of you out there. And our primary mission is to provide the technology and technology resources that will help you fulfill your mission. And we do that in a number of ways. And on the TechSoup website, you can take advantage of a lot of different tools. Get my little arrow up. You can go ahead and find products like the SAP product over on the Find Solutions. You can either browse by category or by partner. You can go ahead and read articles in our Learning Center or our blog articles on the blog. And don't forget to subscribe to the TechSoup newsletters by the Cup and New Product Alert over here on the right side of the home page. So again, I do want to take this moment to thank SAP for their involvement in this webinar. And I want to go ahead and thank our webinar sponsor, ReadyTalk, who provides this ReadyTalk donation. We really appreciate you guys and for all of your help today. And again, thank you everybody for joining us today. You will be receiving a follow-up message with the recording of this webinar, most likely later today, if not probably tomorrow. And if you could take just a couple of seconds to fill out the follow-up survey that will pop up on your screen after you leave, that really does help us in creating future webinars and in improving our webinar program. So again, thank you, Kenneth and Jacqueline, and thank you everybody on my end, and thank you everybody on the ReadyTalk end. I hope you all have a great day.